Good evening. There was an emergency bench hearing of Supreme Court on Saturday evening when the court put a hold on the execution of 8 convicts whose mercy petitions were rejected by President Pranab Mukherjee last week. These 8 included the first woman to face the death penalty, Sonia, who's convicted with her husband of killing 8 members in her family. On the buck stops here tonight, we debate, is hanging in the air or does it just feel like that? Why is it that after having one hanging between 2001 and 2011, we've already had 2 high-profile ones in quick succession and others seem like they are imminent? After all, Pranab Mukherjee has rejected lots of mercy petitions. And more importantly, is this a sign of a healthy justice delivery system, or are we turning into a bloodthirsty nation? That's what we'll be debating. Is the death penalty no longer rarest of rare? But before that, just some developing news that's coming in from Bulandshahr, where a 10-year-old girl was reportedly, who went to the police station to report a rape, was in fact imprisoned by the police officers. NDTV Sonal Mehrotra joins us from that very police station in Bulandshahr. Sonal, this seems wrong at so many levels. How do the police officers explain what happened?
Well, we've spoken at length to the police officers in the only defense, and they're all women police officers, mind you, Sunitra, because it's the women's Mahila Thana, as they call it in here. They, in the defense, say that it wasn't that they put the little girl, the 10-year-old girl, behind bars, but it is in fact that she went there on her own. In fact, we're coming to you from this police station. Let me just take you inside and just show you what exactly does this place look like. My camera person Sudesh is going to follow across and show you. This is the lockup inside this women's police station, wherein the girl was kept in for several hours. In fact, when she came in to report on the case of alleged rape against her. Well, what we know is that around 7:30 yesterday night, while the girl was on her way back home, she was picked up by a man, a 24-year-old of the same village, and allegedly raped. In the morning, when she came to this police station along with the mother to report the case, instead of reporting the case, instead of getting a medical done, they put her behind lockup. Well, there is no explanation as to why this happened, but when this incident was brought to light by the journalists here and the footage was available as to of her being behind bars, the police, the SSP I spoke to said that he took strict action. He suspended 2 constables. He's also taken transferred to senior inspectors. But the reason behind it, Sunitra, unknown as per now. And it is speculated here, however, is the fact that because the girl is of a backward Sunitra, she was taken out of the lockup when the reports flashed on news channels, but now we know that she is with her parents. She is very scared and does not want to speak to the media right now. But what we know and what is being speculated as one of the reasons of her being put behind bars could be not confirmed yet, but it's because she is from a backward caste. Her case of a SC/ST has also been registered according to the SSP. So we'll have to wait and watch into what actions he further takes. He's currently suspended 2 constables, transferred to senior inspectors, but no arrests have been made in the case so far. Sunitra?
Sonal Mehrotra there reporting from Bulandshahr on a story we'll keep tracking. Now let's get back to the focus on the buck stops here this evening. This week, the Supreme Court will give its verdict in Devinder Singh Bhullar's case, where it will decide on a time frame for disposing mercy petitions. But has there been a change in policy from the government or from Rashtrapati Bhavan? Neha Khanna explores this question.
How long should a mercy petition be kept pending? And is there a need to set a time frame to dispose of mercy petitions of death row convicts? That debate rages on. The Supreme Court on late Saturday evening decided to stay for 4 weeks the execution of 8 convicts whose mercy petitions were recently rejected by President Pranab Mukherjee. In a PIL, senior advocate Colin Gonsalves argued on how the Supreme Court had recently stayed the execution of 4 aides of sandalwood smuggler Veerappan because of the delay in carrying out their death sentence. The delays in this case ranging from 3 to 12 years. Interestingly, during the hearing, the bench said it was also entertaining the petition to ascertain whether the convicts' families had been informed that their mercy pleas had been rejected. The issue of long and seemingly endless delays in deciding mercy petitions has even got the attention of the Chief Justice of India, who had a word of advice for the government.
If a death penalty were to be awarded and it is there under the system, then the quicker things were done, the better it is for everybody.
A sentiment echoed by even the Law Minister, perhaps in an acknowledgement of the sharp criticism the government has drawn for the manner in which it handled the hanging of Parliament attack convict Afzal Guru and the recent decision to reject a host of other mercy petitions years after the death sentence was handed down to the convicts.
Yes, it is true that ordinarily there should not be delays in the disposal of mercy petitions. And I think a system is being evolved to ensure that these decisions are taken as expeditiously as possible, keeping in mind the justice of the case, keeping in mind that whatever is done is consistent with the rules of justice and the rules devised to dispose of mercy petitions.
Human rights activists have criticized the government for recently rejecting such a large number of mercy petitions in a short span of time, after keeping them pending for years, even decades. Consider this. Since 1981, when the Supreme Court laid down the guidelines that define the rarest of rare cases attracting the death penalty, various presidents have considered 112 mercy petitions. Out of these, 83 have been rejected. Rashtrapati Bhavan started the trend of holding back decisions on mercy petitions during the tenure of President K.R. Narayanan in 1997. His successor, President Kalam, only cleared the execution of child rapist and murderer Dhananjay Mahapatra, that too after a public outcry. And President Pratibha Patil was forced to clear a few mercy petitions when a death row convict went on a hunger strike in protest against the inordinate delay.
I think it's very cruel and unfortunate that the mercy petitions take such a long time. It also calls for actually development of guidelines and criteria. At the end of the day, President of India is deciding life and death cases. So when you say this murderer actually deserves mercy and the other one doesn't deserve it, then in that case, of course, you have to justify that. And unless you justify that openly and in writing, and if you do not give a cause and reason, then of course there will be fear that the decisions are political and arbitrary.
An issue that's now acknowledged by the ruling party.
We have to reform our judicial system.
Devinder Singh Bhullar was sentenced to death in a 1996 car bombing case. His sentence upheld by the Supreme Court in 2002. But his mercy petition was rejected only in 2011. His wife approached the Supreme Court saying Bhullar had turned mentally ill and was suffering a slow death as a result of being a condemned prisoner on the death row for so long. As the debate on inordinate delays rages on, all eyes will be on the apex court, which will soon decide whether death sentence should be commuted to life imprisonment on account of long delays. With Kriti Mathur in New Delhi, Neha Khanna for NDTV.
So with all these mercy petitions being rejected, is the death sentence no longer rarest of rare? Our guests to discuss this evening, Sanjay Nirupam joins us, Congress MP, Nirmala Sitharaman, BJP spokesperson, also Colin Gonsalves, who has been a human rights lawyer for a lot of the people on death row. Ashok Malik, columnist, is here in studio. Also Suhas Chakma, another human rights activist who has done that study on how many people, what are the figures showing, what are the trends like, and C. Rajshekharan, an advocate of the Madras High Court, joining us as well. Colin Gonsalves, if I can start with you, why is it that you felt the need to go and approach the Supreme Court over the weekend and have that emergency bench? What was your worst fear about this?
Well, the President rejected the mercy petitions with a great deal of secrecy. There was a great deal of confusion in the newspaper reports as to who had been granted clemency and who was scheduled to be executed. There was no information given about the date of execution. There were many stories circulating that the executions would take place on Sunday. The UP jail manual in fact says that after the president rejects the mercy petitions, within a week the person should be executed, which made it very urgent. And generally this attempt by the government to take the accused, the convict prisoners, by surprise, to prevent the family members from meeting them, to prevent the lawyers from meeting them and mounting a challenge to the president's order, was very depressing, and we thought we had to act immediately, otherwise one would have a repeat of the earlier situation where a person was put to death without even the relatives being informed and without a case being filed to challenge the president's order.
You also handled Dhananjay's hanging, which was in 2004. Do you think the way it's being done, do you see a perceptible difference? Was there...
Well, Dhananjay's was a different sort of a case where there was a lot of public hysteria for what he had done. If we apply the recent Supreme Court judgments in Dhananjay's case, I can tell you Dhananjay would turn out to be a person who would have been granted clemency. Because what happened in Dhananjay's case was that they looked only at the crime and not at the criminal, not at the possibility of the criminal being reformed.